Can I let you in on a little secret? If you're still manually sending proposals, chasing signatures, or onboarding clients through email ping pong, you are doing way too much. That's why Kendra and I created the Dubsado Decoded private podcast series just for bookkeepers like you. It's totally free, it's only 7 episodes, and it's in a private feed where my systems expert, Kendra Courtney, and I walk you through how to create a seamless, automated client experience using Dubsado. We cover how to simplify your onboarding, boost your confidence, and actually impress clients from day one without spending hours on admin. And yes, it's free, private, and bingeable in under a week. And starting July 7th, Dubsado Decoded the course will be on sale until July 13th. So head over to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/Dubsado to get access and hear about when the sale goes live. Again, that's ambitiousbookkeeper.com/Dubsado. The link is also in the show notes. I know you're going to love it. Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoop, CPA, a mom of 3, and I've been running a virtual bookkeeping business from my home since 2017. You are in the right place if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you believe and know in your heart that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies for starting and growing your accounting business, then I hope you stick around. So here we are, third time trying to record this podcast. The first time we did hit record, but we were just all over the place because we hadn't really analyzed the data. The second time we recorded a really good episode and it was like 2 hours long. But apparently I actually didn't hit record. So here we are again, third time's a charm. So welcome to the 2025 State of Virtual Bookkeeping and Accounting Survey results. Dun, 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 dun. And I wanted to have Alyssa on here, the workflow queen, to just help kind of extract the data, conversate around it. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Have a conversation around the data that we found and kind of what it means for our industry, things that we should take away from it. And it's just a lot more fun to have someone else on the conversation for stuff like this, to really think about things from different perspectives and angles. So welcome, Alyssa.
Yeah, thank you. Sadly, we are not in person for the
I
third
know.
time's a charm for
But
this.
maybe this is better because we were not recording on video the last time we recorded it.
That's
So
true. Yeah, that's true. But now we are separated and we're very sad about it. A month and a half with Serena is very hard to leave. But hello, everyone. If you don't know who I am, my name is Alyssa Lang. I own Workflow Queen. I also own my own firm as well. It's called Magnetic Profits. I've been with Workflow Queen, been with it, like I don't own it. Like I've owned Workflow Queen for about 5 years. Fun fact, today when I went to go get a rental car, which because that's a whole nother story for another episode, went to go get a rental car today, and the guy was like, "Who employs you?" I was like, "Workflow Queen," and he was like, "That's a really interesting name of place that you work for." And I was like, "I own it." I'm so proud of myself to say that today. But anyways, I help bookkeepers and accountants around the world. We help them implement the right systems, the right team and offers to remove themselves from the day to day. And you're probably most likely hearing this on my podcast as well, and also at Serena's podcast as well. So we're really excited to be diving into all of the fun things. So before we dive in, what is the state of the virtual bookkeeping? What is this survey? When did you do it? Tell them all the things.
yeah, first I have to say hi to Harley because I saw him walk by. Hi, Harley. I miss
He
you.
misses you too.
Harley's a dog. I got a wild hair months ago. I had been inspired by someone who did something similar for the online business industry. And I thought it would be really cool to create a survey for the small firms in the bookkeeping and accounting industry, because what ends up happening is big organizations like Thomson Reuters and Intuit and all these other like really big names will do industry surveys, but they're interviewing and getting data from really big firms that just they tend to do things a lot differently than we do. And
Totally.
so when I've looked at those surveys, I just never felt like they mattered to me, or really I didn't connect with them. So I
Yeah.
thought it would be really cool to do a survey from our industry. And really, I didn't really know what was going to come of it, and I had no expectations. I just was like, I think people will be interested in this information and this data. And it was the first time I've done this. So as we go through this, there's
Bear with
definitely
us.
bear with us because there's definitely things I wish I had done differently, asked different questions, asked questions differently, offered more clarity around how to answer the questions. So rest assured, when we publish the survey next year, it will hopefully be even better. But there is still some really good data that we've gotten from this.
Yeah, 100%. So before we go on, how is someone in anyone's position as they're going through this survey, as we start talking about the results? One, how do people get access to the survey results that you did do? And I think the second piece too would probably be the most important part is why does this matter? Because we both know that if you give anybody metrics or information, a lot of times reading it is one thing, but actually taking that information to make changes, like what is the whole point of this thing and what is it supposed to do for our listeners as far as how they're going to take it and implement it and make changes within their firm.
Yeah. So we will link in the show notes where to go to opt into the results because we're actually going to be publishing. Today, we're just having a conversation about the results, but we're going to be publishing more in depth
Yeah,
detailed
way more in
results
depth.
with, like in a digital format so that you can drill into things and see more and make better decisions. What was the next question you had?
So that's going to be in the show notes. And then the other one was with this type of survey for the first time anyone's ever, like you said, most of these types of surveys are geared towards more corporate. How is someone with where they're currently standing in their firm, whatever stage they're at, able to utilize this information and what is it going to help them to achieve? And how is today's conversation going to help them really unpack that as they start to get the results themselves? Because I'm going to highly recommend, like, I know that we've done this now. This is the third time. Like now that we're doing this three times, I have it like ingrained, but like it's a lot of stats. So I'm going to pre-warn everybody as we go through it. There's a lot of stats, a lot of information. Me and Serena will go on little tangents to explain like what we think about this data, what we think that it's going to help you guys do. But what would someone be able to take from this conversation to start to implement within their firm with the data?
Yeah. So as you'll see, like we're asking questions about people's like average monthly fee and what the makeup of the firm is and what you guys call your firm and your position. So maybe this will help you in making a lot of decisions like that, like pricing. If you don't think that you can price a certain way, well, if the results show that most people have an average price that's higher than what you're offering as a base price, then hopefully this gives you permission to change things. And I'm not saying that you have to do things the way everyone else in the industry is doing
No.
them, because
Yeah.
that's certainly not the message I'm trying to convey. But in areas where you're unsure if you're on the right track, maybe it'll give you confirmation that you are on the right track, or maybe it gives you permission to try something a little different if what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah. Love that. Cool. I'm excited to dive in. Also, guys, I had nothing to do with any of this. I am purely only here because we were like, what? We were at breakfast and we were like, we should do a couple episodes while we were together when I was with Serena. And she was like, we should do the results and go through like an open discussion as if me and Serena were sitting in a coffee shop together and having conversations around like things that we want to shift in our firm and using data to make those things happen. So this just goes to show if you've been sitting by yourself in your own office, which I get it because that's usually what I am all the time. It's really important to make connections with other people in the industry so you can have these brainstorming sessions because I swear my business would not be where it's at if I didn't have my friends to be able to like bounce these things off of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm going to do a redirect and you can go to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/results. Last time we recorded it was the full 2 hours.
She means last time that we were just sitting there talking to each other because we didn't hit record. So we were pretty much just having an open conversation with each other where we thought you guys were listening in for 2 hours. So if it becomes 2 hours, then we will split this up. But if you have any questions along the way, or you're like, I really like this, or I want to change your guys' perspective, or here's what I thought that question means, come on Instagram at ambitious bookkeeper. And then mine is at workfolk. And if you ever want to share anything, then we're always happy to like have this as an open discussion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so should we dive in?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so of the survey, we actually collected 644 responses, which I was honestly blown away at. I did have a few different people helping me promote this survey that are in, my community and also have audiences of bookkeepers. But 644 responses was really awesome. I donated $1 for every response up to 500. So essentially, I donated $500 to Charity Water, which is a charity I will link information in the show notes on. So if you feel inclined, you can donate more. But I thought that was really cool. And that was just I wanted to do something that would incentivize people to actually respond because it's like, what are they going to get out of it other than the results, which are
Yeah.
going to be packaged up and sent out? But to just get people to participate, I thought it was a really good turnout. I honestly wasn't expecting that much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun to even promote it. Like, I had a lot of people emailing me, be like, "This is so cool that you put this together." I was like, "Wish I could take credit, but it wasn't me."
Yeah, and shout out to Hannah on my team. She built the whole survey in Airtable, which is a tool that we're starting to implement more and more inside of the business. So, okay, so first off, we did a section on like your business, like overall. And the first question I asked was, what best describes your current role? And so the results,
So, what best describes your role? I had about 56% of you guys say that you describe your role as a solo bookkeeper accountant with no team. And then about 39, or sorry, 36% of you said firm owner with a team. Everyone in between was just like an employee of a company or maybe just getting started, very small, slim amount. So the majority of people were either identified as solo bookkeeper accountant with no team or firm owner with a team, which is funny when we get into the next part because it was very much opposing your guys' responses, but we'll get into that in just a minute.
yeah. And then the other thing, this is one of the areas where, as we were unpacking the results, I was like, wow, I wish I would have asked a certain question like revenue range of the firm. However, that's not in here, but we do talk about pricing. And either way, I think there's some valuable information in here. What do you call yourself in business? So this
Yeah,
one
so
was a
we
mixed
had
bag.
the majority of people almost tied. We had people calling themselves and referring to themselves as a bookkeeper. Then we also had people referring to themselves almost equal parts, owner. Then those were at 28% each. Next in line was 14, or sorry, 15%. They call each other themselves accountants. Next in line was founder. Then we had CEO, and then the smaller ones was like other or CFO. And I think we talked about, I do want to kind of touch on this one because we forgot to mention that because Serena's audience, so explain your audience for everyone who's listening, whether they're on my podcast or yours, of how that could actually have changed the
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah, so because the majority of my audience and some of the big promoters, the people that I had also promoting this survey, I think we all tend to attract solo firm owners and bookkeepers, not necessarily people that identify as accountants or CFOs or that type of
Like
role. So
multi-million dollar firms.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that has something to do with it. But I don't know. We'll find out next year as this grows.
Oh yeah, this is going to be exciting because this is definitely not going to be last year. Next year, I really want to be involved in like the creation. I know we brainstorm on a lot of like things that could be
Yeah.
changed around this, but I found it to be really interesting that some of you guys called bookkeeper, and I did touch on this on the last time, so I'm definitely going to touch on it. I decided to change my name to owner, like as the owner founder of my own firm, and I think it's because I just stopped wanting to be identified as a bookkeeper because I feel like it is so like undermined and underplayed as far as like my mom, my sister can do it, my cousin, like it always feels like it's just my bookkeeper. It's almost like you're just their assistant. So I actually removed it from my name. So originally we were Magnetic Bookkeeping and Consulting, and now we're Magnetic Profits because I was like, you know what? I don't like the identification of it. But that's
Mhm.
also like my own thought
I did the
process.
same thing because
Yeah.
my firm used to be called, well, I've gone through a few iterations. I used to
Yeah.
have the CPA designation in my firm name. That attracted the wrong, not who I was trying to work with. People were just coming
Hmm.
for taxes. And then I just rebranded to, of course, bookkeeping. And then now I'm, of course, financial. So same thing. Like at first it was funny. I went from like CPA to bookkeeping and then
Yep.
kind of came back to somewhere in the middle, and it feels a lot better for
Yeah,
me
it just feels like
personally.
more balanced. So for anybody who's like needs permission while you're listening to this to like call yourself whatever makes the most sense for you. I do know that I think we talked about this as well that like when I go out into public, sometimes like trying to explain what I do and like the type of business I have, like I'm not technically in the state of California, or you said Texas and California, right? You're not allowed to call yourself an accounting firm. I'm technically not allowed to call myself an accountant because I don't have a CPA designation. But every once in a while, it's a hell of a lot easier than trying to explain a business advisory or like consulting firm because we do bookkeeping, but that's not our number one priority. It's mostly the business advisory and consulting. And so I'm not really allowed to, but sometimes I'll go out in public and I'll like introduce myself, like to make it easy. I'll just be like, I own an accounting firm. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is it's like in different situations, you might call yourself something different. So it could have been hard to answer this question because it's like, well, the way that I
I'm
look at
here,
it,
it's this. Yeah.
yeah, the way that I look at this question is like, like, what does your email signature say or your business card? If you're
Oh,
saying, you know what
systems
I mean?
unicorn.
It just says unicorn, financial unicorn. Um,
If that's what we're looking for here. Mine is numbers nerd in my email signature for magnetic or something like that.
oh, really? You don't have like owner or anything?
Nah, dog.
That's hilarious. I mean, I have owner, so that's what or
It
CEO. What do
might
I
now
have on
say
mine?
owner, but I know it was numbers nerd at one point where it was like, I didn't really care. Like, I got to a point in business where it was like, this is not that serious. Like, I mean, it is serious. What we're doing, guys, not to downplay anything that we're doing. It is 100% serious, but I got to a point in business where I was like, I'm just here for fun. And like the right people are going to be like, that's cute. But I'm officially, if I'm like on stage, I'm going to like introduce myself as owner founder.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then what do you call your business? So this is like what you call your business structure, like bookkeeping business, bookkeeping firm, accounting firm. We kind of touched on this before.
Yeah. So this is 38% of you said bookkeeping business. The next in line was about 28% said bookkeeping firm. Next said 17% of you guys said accounting firm. The next in line was other. And then after that was 6% said financial services business, which I'm surprised that that's what they called it, but only like 43 people out of the 644. So biggest was bookkeeping business and bookkeeping firm.
Yeah. And so the other categories, that's going to be information that we'll be putting on the report that if you
Yeah.
opt into, you can get. That way you can see. And then I'm going to take that information and kind of what makes sense, put them into options for next time. Yeah, I call myself an accounting firm. Like when I'm talking to people and they ask what I do, I say I own an accounting firm because like that's what people understand. And for me, I am a CPA, so it's not an issue to call myself that. But even so, like if the firm that you're working for or own like does accounting, like in a conversation, I think it's totally legit to just say that if you're
Yeah.
comfortable with it.
Now I say like we're mostly we just call ourselves advisory firm.
Yeah. And then the next question was, how long have you been offering bookkeeping or accounting services?
So let's see, 30% said 3 to 5 years. Next in line at 27%, or sorry, 22% is 1 to 2 years. 16% of you said 6 to 10 years, which we were very surprised by. 15% said less than 1 year. And then 14% said 10 plus years,
Yeah.
which is crazy to think about. Like there's so many people here that are 10 plus years in business.
And yeah, and perhaps like this is where we will splice the data further in the report to see like of the people who have been in business 10 plus year, how many of those are still solopreneurs? How
Yeah.
many still have a team? And then the other thing that came up for me was how people interpreted the question. Like, are
Yes.
they thinking like, oh, I've been in accounting for, because I've been in the accounting industry as a whole since freaking 2007, I think. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many years that is at this point,
I
like
think
20
that's
years almost.
nice. 17, if I can
Yeah,
math
17
mathing.
years.
Yeah.
So that would put me in that 10 plus year range if I answered it like that. But if I answer it as long as I've been offering these services under my own company or
Yeah.
freelancing or whatever, that's just like 7 or 8 years. So
Yeah, we don't know what the data, like what everyone's interpretation is. But it's like Serena said, this is only going to get better every year with getting a little
yeah,
bit more clear on like when you started your business, how long have you been offering these services within your businesses, not as like a freelancer, not as like within another someone else's company. So I
yeah.
love that.
Hey, bookkeeper friend, ever wish you could binge only the podcast episodes you need right now? Whether you're diving into advisory work, looking for quick Q&A wins, or craving a little student spotlight inspiration, I've got you. We've curated themed Spotify playlists for the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast, so you can skip the scroll and get straight to what matters. Tap into strategy sessions, leadership gems, and more at ambitiousbookkeeper.com/Spotify. Pop in your earbuds and hit play on your next big move. And the next question was, do you work with clients full-time or part-time?
So we had 50% of people say full time. Then we had 31% of people say part time. Then 17% is on the side of another job. So I think for this one, we were trying to figure out, were we trying to figure out maybe that this could
Yeah.
have been interpreted differently?
Yeah. So part-time meaning like it also depends on like does your business work part-time? Like for me, I only work part-time in the business. My team is all part-time, so it would be
Yeah.
easy for me to say part-time. But it
Yeah.
makes a full-time income. So it's like
Yeah.
there's that too. And then there's the other piece of it too is like, or are you just counting your own time, how much you're
Yeah.
offering the service? So again, I can offer more clarification on the next round on how to
Yeah.
answer these questions, but still interesting information that only half are working full-time.
Yeah, which is great. I will say that because I know last time, because we thought we were recording, you were going to be able to come back and listen to the potential changes we can make. I would probably, if this were the future of the survey, ask the question around, especially at Workflow Queen, this is what we really heavily focus on, is asking the question around how much time do you spend on a weekly basis as the owner in your business? Because I'd be curious to see how many people are actually like working a lot of time in their business and then also looking at the results to say now how many of those people like working only 20 hours are technically not even having a team, but that's like but where are they at in their revenue threshold, so that way people can like really leverage like this is where you need to be at. And I'm surprised by the 50 wasn't it 50% for full time? Yeah, 50% of you guys are in full time.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming we're just going to make an assumption here that that means that you guys are working 40 hours a week on your client work. So I'm actually really curious to see how many of those people, and I know that we're going to splice this data even further when you go actually do the like more official report, but looking at how many people who are in full time and looking at how many of them actually have the team and how many of you guys are actually managing a number of clients, because some or like what your struggles are. So if your struggles are systems and processes but you're working full time, you could probably cut that in half without even hiring at first, to then be able to like move on to the next stage to then hire and get you out of the day to day, because I'm sorry, I'm never working full time ever in my life ever again.
I know.
I could not imagine working 40 hours. Like right now, I'm like, God, 8 hours, like, or 5 to 8 hours a week feels like a lot of work.
And honestly, like, even though I used to work like 60 hours a week when I was in corporate, there was so much wasted time when I
Yeah.
was in the office that, like,
Hmm.
technically, I probably didn't actually work 60 hours a week
Yeah.
on actual, like, doing work. A lot of it was like,
Water
chit-chatting in the
cooler.
office. The water
Yeah.
cooler. We
Yeah.
had freaking puzzles in our office. We had some empty cubicles and we would like
Yeah.
fill out puzzles. I'm like, so much wasted time.
Yeah. But that's like so different corporate versus like these types. This is where I will say that's a really good point that you brought up, because this just goes to show those types of surveys will not help the type of businesses that are listening right now, mostly because we cannot afford inefficient team members. We
Yeah.
cannot afford inefficient owners. We cannot afford inefficient contractors, because we have the ability to be a little bit more agile and pivot with changes in the business and new clients that come on. When corporate, as you know, because you've been in corporate, I've never been in corporate, for when I know from people and from you, is that when a new initiative gets rolled out, it's going to take months to even roll it out because of how
Yeah.
many departments it has to cross. So in that case, like you guys can't afford for anyone, like as we get into like later on in the episode when we talk about the issues that you guys are having in your business, you're going to see how interesting this is for how many of you guys are working full time, but then you're going to say a specific thing that like does not make sense why you guys are saying it in a certain way. And we'll get to
Hmm.
that in just a minute. But I do believe that like we cannot afford to be inefficient at
Yeah.
the type of level of firms that we're all running.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now we're getting into team structure and whatnot. So, next question was, do you have a team?
Yes. So 58% said no. 17% said yes, part-time contractors. 11% is yes, part-time employees. Sorry, Jesus, 8%, a mix of contractors and employees, and then 5% said yes, full-time employees. So no
So,
for 58% of people, because you guys
yeah,
are like working
which
full-time.
which confirms, yeah, it's like we're seeing a lot of people that are working full
Hmm.
time, a lot of solo firm owners, which there's nothing wrong with. Just
Totally fine.
please make sure that you are following Workflow Queen and that you're setting up systems so that you have like a contingency plan. If something happens and
Yeah,
you're the only one touching client work, like you need to have,
that's risky.
it is risky, and hopefully you have some processes at least written out so that someone can step in if they need to.
Yeah, definitely. And I do believe that like for 58, it was just crazy. 58% of people, we also don't know, like, I think we talked about this last time, that someone might identify as a team as like they have to be employees. So I'm just gonna like let you guys know so that next year when you do fill out the survey, a team can be a contractor or an employee. How we defined it last time was like if you were to add them to your communication system, your Slack, or any way that they're more immersed in the business, whether they're a contractor or an employee, I believe is your team.
Yeah,
I would
and
not
if they're working
consider,
on client work for sure.
yeah, exactly. Like I would not consider my social media marketing managers as a team member because they're a external like
Separate
company.
agency. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like an agency. They don't work on the client work. So if you guys just because it's not an employee, because I see this a lot where people always assume that like when I hire it has to be an employee, it has to be full time. No, you can hire for someone like 2 hours a week if you wanted to, as an employee or a contractor. It really doesn't matter. That's a designation that's required by the IRS. But yeah, 58% of you said no team at all. I genuinely think that that's okay as long as you're in alignment with that. But if you're working full time and you're exhausted, something needs to change. But we can
Mhm.
get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. And there is something to be said of like the simplicity of, especially because I'm sure there's someone listening that's like, I tried the team, I tried to do that, I ended up working more to just fix all the mistakes, and that's a separate issue
Yeah,
for
100%.
sure. But
I've got plenty of
also,
episodes on that on my podcast, so go to listen to those.
but also there's something to be said about the simplicity of having being able to control everything, and that's okay too if that's the season you're in.
Well,
So
not only that, but I will tell you guys, the bigger you grow, the more you wish it was just you again.
yeah.
But at the same time, I know that we just talked about this recently. I would never give up my team. Like because I love, like right now I'm like on this crazy wild like adventure right now and I can't imagine if I had to do all this stuff without a team. I'd be like freaking. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like there are times when like I'm like god that payroll it hurts. Like,
Yeah, but
you
at the
know?
same time, like the team is what gives you the freedom to
To do that and
actually
have
live your
space
life.
to create more parts of the business that give them more opportunities and give more people jobs. So like
Yeah.
the more space I have as a founder, the more opportunities I can create for everyone else, bonuses, new positions. Like it's only better if I am frolicking around the US.
Awesome. Okay. Next question was, how many clients do you currently serve?
Okay, so this is
Oh,
all over the place. So we've got 26% at 20 plus clients. That's the highest amount of you guys are at 20 plus clients. 22% of you said 11 to 20 clients. 18% said 0 to 2 clients. Then we had 17% at 6 to 10 clients and 16% at 3 to 5. So to go back, the biggest ones were 20 plus clients. And then right after was 11 to 20.
yeah, it's crazy. So many. I'm interested to drill into the data on the 20 plus clients and how many people are still solo without a team versus having a team. You know
Yeah,
what I
because
mean?
even like that was a pick people who were saying, no team at all was already 58%. So like 58% were saying no, but then there's like 26 that are already doing 20 plus clients.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I know
And
so many people that I know that me and you have privately coached these people that are like, I've coached 100 plus clients before. And it's just the founder. And I'm like, how are you not flipping out right now? Like, I can't even do like five. And they're like, I don't have a project management system. I'm like, I literally will have nightmares for them.
yeah, same. I'm like, well, we have 20 clients and I have a team.
Yeah, and there's no way I would do this solo. I could have like one and I'd be like, I need a team. I know that you were big on like right from the get-go. Get-go, not
I
get-go.
hired help when I only had 5 clients.
Hmm.
So
I tell your story all the time when everyone's like, well, because there's so much bad, I think, in my opinion, bad advice for like, I don't know what company it is, and I'm not even going to say their name, but they are very adamant about saying that if for every 100K, it's one employee, it's one full-time employee, and I really am going to call on all of that. I believe that like they're considering full-time employee when like you can get part-time employees or part-time contractors at literally one client if you really wanted to. It's all about your goals, your alignment, what you need, and your
Mhm.
desires in business and the goal that you're trying to create for yourself.
Yeah. And how much and your profit. Like if you
Hmm.
price correctly, that's doable. And it's honestly like we're off on a tangent. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast many times too, is like honestly, it's better to, if you know you want to hire in the future anyway, it's better to start early so that you get used to pricing in a way that you can cover the team as well
Yes.
as have the profit that you want. And you're not feeling like you're giving up the profit
Yes, I
to
love
other
that point
people.
because that's something that we do in Breakthrough. So inside of the Breakthrough program, we have them go through their client profitability and look at like how much they're spending per client. And a lot of times they're in a really bad position where like now they have to raise their clients' rates by 35 to 50% because they've been pricing because somewhere online someone told them it's just going to be you, it's just a side hustle when like I get it. I thought it was a side hustle and here we are 3 companies later like full-blown team. Like I get that. Like I genuinely didn't think it was going to turn into what it did, but then like I really regret the way I priced. So you made a really good point there. Like price is if you were to have a team, so then when you bring so right now it's just extra bonus money for you because you're just collecting you're going to have way higher profitability. It's going to feel like you're taking, but you're really not. You're just preparing for better software, better growth, better team, better flexibility. But I can't tell you guys how many people are at the 20 plus client who cannot raise their rates because they're like, I can't raise it that much. And now I need a team. And now they're in a catch 22. And then they wonder, like, do I raise my rates or hire the team? I'm like, well, you could have just fixed it from the beginning and been able to afford the team this
Yeah.
whole time. So you're right. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up.
All right. Now, this question was, what is the typical revenue range of your clients? So this is going to play into the following question of like, what is your average monthly fee? So while I wish I would have asked your revenue range of the firm, I did not. Um, we're talking about revenue range of the clients that you serve. And so, yeah, it looks like the majority is under 100K.
Yeah. That was a majority was under 100K, but I think that we also were thinking that this might
Oh
have been
yeah. I
interpreted.
also worded the question really messed up. I
Yeah.
just realized that. So I wrote the typical monthly revenue range of the
Hmm.
clients, but then I gave options that look more like annual revenue ranges. Whoopsie. Uh,
So
this
we
is
don't
what
know if you guys
happens
were
when you
answering this as like yourself, like thinking like this is how much money you were making annually for your own firm, or like, so we just don't know what
yeah.
this data is going to tell us right
Yeah.
about now.
So this might just be data that we have to throw out, but
I'm going to read it
52%,
off anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. 52% is under 100K. 18% is 100K to 250K. Then next in line was 13% at 250K to 500K. Then 7% are 500K to 1 million. And then we had 6% at 1 million to 5, and then 5 million plus. So if this is exactly what we were thinking you guys are answering would be the typical revenue range of clients. I think we made some really good points last time that I'd love for us to bring up again, which is all about the way that we price our clients and what we can potentially bring in from our clients is heavily going to depend on the revenue that they're bringing in. And I think it's okay to be working with micro companies and those that are under the 100K, but they're just not going to be willing to pay the same amount that someone or be ready for the type of service that we need to be offering them. I think we definitely touched on that. And I think it was a really good conversation that we had around that.
Yeah, because what I wanted to glean from this information is like, okay, if your clients are only making under 100K and your average monthly fee is under 300, that I mean is more in alignment, I guess, with under 100K if that's what their revenue is, but like
Yeah.
if you're pricing a little bit more and you're
Yeah.
also having trouble getting clients, but most of your clients are in this revenue range, like it all is interconnected. So I always try to use like a bit like a litmus test of when I'm pricing a client. I always ask on their intake,
Yeah.
not their intake, but their questionnaire before I get on a call with them,
Yeah.
their inquiry form, what their revenue range is, because I want to get a sense of like, can they even afford my minimum price?
Yeah.
Because I'm not even gonna like some people will still try to pay it, but it doesn't end up long term unless
Yeah.
they are in growth mode and they know they're going to turn a corner. So it's risky.
It is 100%. We stopped working with businesses that weren't making at least 250K. And we actually made that decision about a year and a half ago when we did our own profitability check on our own clients. And we looked at like the traits of the clients, what systems they were using, how difficult are they. And the common theme of like the favorited by like not just me, but also our bookkeeping team was anybody who's making over 250K. So then we just stopped. I think it was like, yeah, like about a year and a half ago now. And it's my favorite thing because they can most likely, there has been moments where people are under the 250K, but they're like, they have funding or they're coming in from a different position where they're like, I'm ready to invest. And you can like kind of tell that from the form, but typically we'll usually just revert them to another firm. So like, it's okay. I just wanted to kind of touch on that, that like, it's okay if you want to serve the more micro businesses. And I do think that they need to be served. I think they're very pivotal, but the majority of businesses that get even past 100K is very slim. I think we pulled the stats one time when we were talking at a different point in time. We'll probably were on our own little tangents in life together, where we pulled the stats to say that like a really large percent of business owners go into business never hitting their first 100K or
Yeah.
going beyond that. So there's a time and place, but just know that it's okay if you don't serve people at 100K or under, or that's all you want to serve. Just know
Yeah.
that it comes with issues of its own.
Yeah, and it's like, is that in alignment with your revenue
Yeah.
goals? And that's something I walk through people through in my
Mhm.
programs so that you are pricing like and figuring out like what your capacity is, how much like bandwidth do you have to serve clients and how much money do you need to make? And then you
Yeah.
figure out, okay, this is what my minimum price needs to be. I cannot go below this.
Yeah,
It's really
totally.
helpful to have that baseline because especially when you have a team because you're like, okay, I know that like if we don't charge at least this, we have no chance of being profitable. None of this is going to end
Or
up
to
in my
serve them.
pocket.
Because if
Yeah.
I'm not profitable, then I'm just gonna eat it all. I know Brooke will say this all day, every day. Brooke Swan, she'll say, she'll call me and be like, how do I do this? Like our price, or we'll have an open discussion around a pricing or a client. She's like, but I feel bad. I always started with that. So I had to keep calling her out to be like, every time you say I feel bad, it ends up being lowering your price for someone.
Yeah.
And so when we start to like create things as more of like the science of it rather than the art of it, of the art of pricing, because we start to put feelings in there and then we feel bad because they're just getting started in their business, like it could only like deter you. And we could still really appreciate a business owner and respect them and still stand firm in our pricing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
Absolutely. Okay. So this brings us to the pricing question. What is the average monthly fee of your clients or typical monthly fee you charge your clients?
Typical
Right.
monthly fee. Okay, this is my favorite one to talk about. 40% of you said your typical monthly fees are 300 to 500. Right behind you guys at 21% was 500 to 750. 18% of you said under 300. Then 10% of you guys said 750 to 1,000. Then we have 5% of you who said your typical fee for your clients is 1,000 to 2,000. And then 4% said 2,000 plus. So I'm pretty happy about this, that the majority of people, which is the 40%, said average monthly fee is, or sorry, what is the monthly fee of your client is 300, 500. I will say this probably could have gotten worded a little bit better because I feel like one, it could have been really cool to see what people's like minimum fee requirement
Yeah.
is. And then a separate question for what is your average client monthly fee? Because right now I don't know if people are answering that based off of like what their minimum threshold is or if that's their actual average. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
hmm So I think, do we want to touch on this part here? Because we did have some people who were saying 21% were 500 to 750, which I think is great.
Yeah, I love that the majority of people are charging more than $300 a month.
Yeah, except for
Like,
18% of you guys.
yeah. So that 18%, I'm sure a lot of you are serving clients under 100K. So
hmm
maybe that is necessary, but also you
But
probably
not.
can still charge at least 300.
Or I always say like you do not need to negotiate on your types of services. However, it's okay to sit down with the client and say, here's what the scope would entail at this price. If we took away XYZ, this is what it would entail. So like obviously I'm not going to say you guys categorize transactions and we'll do everything else. Like that would be different. Well, you could offer that, but we just don't at my firm. But that could look like I just won't produce reports for you. We won't do a Loom video overview. And that's okay. I just don't think negotiating on the price with what service you currently have is, I think, where it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then the next question was, how do you price your services? Again, some of the answers are pretty much similar, like monthly fixed fees, tiered pricing packages could probably be combined, maybe even value-based pricing. But what this did show is that people consider their pricing to fall under these different types of umbrellas, even if
Yeah.
like the end is still like a monthly flat fee.
Like their terminology in their
Yeah.
brain is like which is actually good for more me and you, like because of the way
Yeah.
that they like speak to themselves as we serve the actual industry. But we had about 50% of you say that you call what type of services that you do is monthly fixed fees. Then we've got 17%, like Serena said, it's pretty much kind of the same tiered pricing packages, 13% value-based pricing. So if you kind of put those together, I am not going to try to math right now. That's 67%, 67, 30, 70.
You're
80%?
like, I'm not going to try to math.
I,
And then,
I think I did it right, but I think that's 80% of you guys are pretty much, I would just say to lump it all together, like value pricing, where you're not charging hourly,
yeah.
essentially. Then 12% of you guys are doing hourly fees, and then 2% are other. You're going to put that in the actual survey results. Monthly retainer is 16 of you guys, so about 2%, and then another 3% for project based. So that's 80% of you guys are doing monthly fix, which is great. But the other 12 of you, I would get it together and not do hourly if you can. Unless
Yeah.
you're doing cleanups, because like if you're just a cleanup specialist firm, then like that might be appropriate to do hourly.
Yeah. And this is one of those things too that it's going to be interesting to splice this data and see of the people that are charging hourly, are these solo? Are these
Yeah.
with a team? Are these 0 to 2 years in business? Like, what does that makeup look
Yeah.
like? Because that's honestly understandable if you're in your first couple years of business or maybe your first year,
Yeah.
depending on how many new clients you're signing, like it's understandable to charge
Yeah,
hourly.
because you don't even know what you're
No
worth yet.
idea.
Yeah. I've done it. I did it too. I did
Yeah,
hourly for a really long
same.
time until,
My first
yeah,
hourly rate was comical.
30.
Yeah, it
Was
was like
what was it?
$30 an
Yeah,
hour.
same. Mine was 30. That's so funny. I did not know that
I
about each
got
other.
paid more than that in corporate, but for some reason, I was like,
So like in your brain,
yeah, I
think
was like,
about
well,
it.
I've never done this on my own before, so I needed to boost my own confidence, but I
Totally.
did at least raise my rate for every new client. So if you are charging hourly, even if you are charging hourly or not, if you are lowballing yourself, like at least increase your price on each
Yeah.
new client.
Yes, I love that. Thanks for that advice. Love that for us.
Okay, what services do you currently offer? This was like a you could select multiple options. So this is where I don't think the pie chart really works, but we
I'm
could
gonna
just
go with the pie chart because I have
okay.
it right in front of my face. So I'll start with that. I'm not even gonna say the percentages though. I'm just gonna go in
Like
order
yeah.
of what the biggest, most important thing is that most people checked off. So it's gonna be bookkeeping. Following that is also cleanup catch-up work. And then we have financial reporting, payroll, sales tax filing, AP, AR, other, which we don't know that as tax prep. Tax prep was only like, I will say that one, 4%. Controller management accounting was only 3%. So those are quite small. 6% of you said budgeting and forecasting. And then another 6% in advisory CFO. So the majority of people are offering bookkeeping, AP, AR, cleanup, catch up, financial reporting, payroll, and sales tax filing, which I'm really surprised by because I'm actually not surprised by like the budgeting and forecasting and the advisory, which is interesting because like your audience should be working with you and Elevate. Anyways, just to throw that out there. But I will also say like there's so many of you guys that probably don't realize that you are offering advisory, but you do not charge for it because you don't think you're doing it. I can't tell you how many times people will get on calls and they will literally be strategizing with the client. And they're like, but I'm just reviewing reports. I'm like, it is one thing to read off a report to somebody and answer a question about that particular category than it is to start like actually saying, well, you might want to pay this person this much. Like, so I'd love like really quickly to touch on for anyone who might have not answered that correctly because they don't have the confidence that maybe they think they're not doing it. What would you say is that line between reading a report and what is actually advisory that puts someone in that category, but they might just not be charging for it?
Yeah. So anytime you're like really analyzing the data and interpreting what it means for the client and their business, like looking at a report and having the client say, okay, well, what's in that number? And you're drilling down into the accounts and saying, oh, it's this software and that software. That's not advisory, even though you're kind of analyzing the
Yeah.
numbers. What I'm talking about is like looking at the P&L, looking at the trends, how things are trending, and kind of doing some, maybe you're doing some like forecasting or predicting of things with the client or giving them tips on things to change. Like, For instance, if they're having cash flow problems, you're looking at the cash flow statement and saying, oh, your cash is depleting every month because of whatever.
Credit
That's
card
a
bills or something. Yeah.
yeah. And here's some ideas on how you can change that. Maybe charge your clients up front and maybe do a 50% deposit instead of waiting to bill them because you're having cash flow issues. Those types of
Yeah.
things are advisory.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, that's why I like really was like, I'm surprised like not a lot of people, considering how many times that I'm like in my own programs and stuff, how many times I hear people be like, I want to offer advisory. And then they start to like look into advisory. I'm like, and we're still here 3 years later, not offering it. You probably are. You're probably just not charging what you're worth, which if we were charging correctly would actually change the monthly fee that on average. So like next year, let's hope that the next survey, people will check off more advisory because they recognize it maybe based off even what you explained. If you don't know advisory services and you really want to get into this, one, I do think this is a certain type of skill set and it's a certain type of way that you need to be able to operate and think. And I do believe like you have to be a little bit confident in like at first getting the numbers down before you can start advising. But one, you guys can totally do it more than you think you can. And two, you're probably already doing it. You're probably just not charging for it because you think that it's basic information. I could tell someone about how to organize their Google Drive and they're blown away, but in my brain I'm like, how did you not know to do that? But like to them they would have paid lots of money for me to say that. Right? So like if you guys want to learn advisory, I'm going to highly recommend Serena. It's like just plugging you in here. She has
Thanks.
a program called Elevate. I think it's great because our team actually went through it, which is awesome. So it's a really good program to be able to like understand and learn advisory and more in like a practical way because there's so many other like offers out there around learning advisory, but they just give you either a glorified spreadsheet or glorified information, but you actually like give them like more of like breakdown, which is what I like about Elevate.
Yeah. So yeah, that program is definitely designed for if you don't have the experience, like walking you through how to create a budget, conversations to have with the clients, the information you're going to need from them.
Hmm.
So it's like step one. And the other thing too that I wanted to say is like, yeah, I was offering all of that in my $30 an hour stuff too, and sometimes I wouldn't even charge
Same.
them for the
I
phone
didn't
call.
know. I would charge like $100 extra on my fee, not realizing that like even though it's only an hour call, like I am giving them years of packaged information and like this brain that can like identify holes really quickly and like fill
Yeah.
them and like just identify this stuff that now like I guess like to go off on a little random tangent. If you were to say sitting right in front of me, like I just want to go a little bit more strategizing with reports with you, not just like producing reports, how much extra would you charge a client to like that's pretty much advisory, but not in like the fancy budgeting way. What would you charge extra on top of that fee?
If we're meeting monthly for
Yeah, like
it,
on a monthly basis and like
like three or four
strategizing on the
hundred
reports.
dollars.
Yeah. No budgets, no forecasting. You're just genuinely advising on the call.
Yeah,
How much would you charge for that?
like between three and $400.
Yeah.
But I usually also include an annual meeting where we do create a budget. And so
A
like,
larger thing. Yeah.
yeah, so that's all kind of encompassed in that. But
And
yeah,
it also rolls itself over because like us, it's 250, but we don't do the annual
yeah,
budget prep. So like it makes sense why you would do 3 to 400 because then you're kind of recouping what you're going to do at the end of the year, which is going to take a lot of like back end work.
yeah, exactly. And strategizing back and forth with the client and all that kind of stuff.
And emails more like, hey, should I, convert this person into an employee versus contractor? What's that going to like do for me? Yeah, that's, I was just curious because I'm sure other people would like very curious about how that goes because we're the
Yeah,
same. Obviously, if it's more comprehensive, like we're actually like creating spreadsheets and creating things, it could be like 1,500 a month on top of
yeah. Yeah,
bookkeeping.
I offer very basic advisory
Same at that
services
level.
just because I'm at a season in my life where I it's just what works for me. And
Yeah.
so I'm not trying to do like really complex like ad hoc services for my clients. It's strictly like if you're in the advisory CFO plan, like you are getting an annual budget, and then we meet every month, we compare budgets to actuals, and then every quarter we reforecast. So that's included too in that meeting where we'll talk about, okay, like what do we need to change for the rest of the year with what we know now?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's pretty much it. And within those conversations, whatever comes up during that hour is kind of
It's up to
game.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like we'll go over the numbers and it sparks conversations, or
Like
my clients will
team.
come. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. My clients will come to
Always
the meeting
team.
like, I want to
Yeah.
hire someone, and like, what can we do now? Okay, let's pull up our budget because we didn't add that to the budget, or maybe we're hiring later than we thought we would. So
Yeah.
this is how it's going to look now. So Yeah, but yeah, I was offering those types of like conversations when I was charging like
Hmm.
$30 an hour. And
Same.
that's part of why why my base fee is quote unquote high, because I know that some of that is just going to naturally happen with me.
Yeah.
And so if that's you too, if you're listening and you're like, I just can't help myself, but I don't want to necessarily like be upselling my clients, well, then you've just got to adjust your pricing and
Yeah.
account for it, just like credit card fees, just account for it.
Yeah, exactly. Love that for us.
Okay. Um, what accounting software do you use?
Not
Of
going to be
course,
surprised
there
by
was
this.
like it was a landslide.
86% of you guys said QuickBooks Online, 9% said zero, and then we right behind it, QuickBooks Desktop, Wave, FreshBooks. So we're not surprised by this in any capacity.
Yeah. And what other tools do you use regularly? We had lots of options and you could select multiple options. So, number one,
Number one was Google Workspace. Right behind that was Zoom. Then we've got other, so we just don't know what that meant. And then this one was 10% for ClickUp, Asana, Trello. We discussed this on the last time that we didn't actually record, but like definitely putting things like project management in general with like Keeper, Asana, because that technically could be lumped in. So we don't know if some of you guys were saying other because she explicitly said ClickUp, Asana, or Trello rather
right.
than like it was like an idea of project management. So we don't know what those are going to be. Then we had Gusto at 12% of you guys. Uh, and then 8% was Slack, Voxer, Loom, which in my opinion are wildly different things. Slack and Voxer, I believe, are the same. But I know that we discussed this last time. What was your idea of Loom? Because I think this is an interesting idea of how why you put that lumped in with Slack and Voxer.
Just any type of asynchronous communication method,
Okay.
whether
I
it's
don't
with
believe
clients
Loom
or
is.
whether it's with clients or team.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
don't think Loom is back and forth. Like
Well, it's not
they
a
don't, they
necessarily a
can't.
back and forth, but it's a way to disseminate information and
Yeah.
communicate to your team, like rather than a Slack message. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it could have
Faster.
been messaging system like Slack or Voxer
Yeah.
or like Gmail workspaces, I think is what they call them when they're like kind of like Slack, but it's like the
Yeah.
workspace or Teams, I think is in Microsoft. Because in my mind, yes, we technically send videos to our clients, but like we're not expecting a two-way street on it. And then also we use it mostly for like SOPs and
Yeah.
like communicating like here's what I'm seeing on my screen, but not
So
really like communication. You know what I mean?
one of the ways that like the why I lumped that together is because like do you ever get those emails from Loom that's like you replaced this many meetings this month? Because I look at it that
Mhm.
way. Like if we eliminated having a face-to-face meeting by Voxer, Slack, or Loom,
Yeah.
then like I'm just curious like what people like it was really just a curiosity. Like are people even using these
Yeah.
types of tools? Because some people aren't.
Totally. And we had like 7 or 8% of you guys do Relay, which is great. HubDoc Deck, so like a receipt management 6. And then all the other like additional smaller things. So like Content Snare was only 1% of you guys, which is interesting because some of the things that you guys were saying that you needed support with, I'm like, can we get better at requesting documents? But I think there was definitely a lack of like the type. Instead, it could be the types of tools
Hmm.
like drilling into like do you use like a project management system because I think in general a lot you'd be surprised how many like firms don't use a project management system in general,
Yeah.
or don't use a receipt management regardless if that's Keeper because there's now Keeper that does it too and Zenit. I don't know if Zenit does it now, but we're using HubDoc, but like HubDoc, Zext, and Keeper could be lumped into one, so that might be where the other's coming from.
Yeah. Okay, the next question was, are you satisfied with your current tech stack?
Okay, so we've
Before
got
you answer that,
yes.
I have a joke.
Oh, stop it right now. Stop. I'm excited.
Hold on, I gotta make sure I word it correctly because I can't remember. What do you call a factory that makes okay products?
That is factory. I only know this
Okay,
because ChatGPT was
I
telling
know.
us. So that would be 41% of you guys are mostly satisfied with your tech stack. About 30% of you guys are satisfied with your tech stack. 20% of you guys are still figuring it out. And 9% is no, I need better solutions.
Yeah.
Love that.
Okay. How do you currently, okay, now we're getting into like business challenges and whatnot. So, how do you
Yes.
currently find or attract new clients?
Okay, so we've got the majority of people at 41% was word of mouth referrals. Then right next to that is local networking at 13%. Right behind that at 8% is my website SEO. Then we've got another 8% at Facebook groups. Then after that, it gets smaller. So 6% at LinkedIn, 6% at Instagram, and paid Facebook ads is 1%. Direct outreach, so like DM cold emails, is 3%. I'm not actively marketing right now, is 5%, and other. And then email marketing is at 2.5%.
Yeah. So the other aspect of this question, which I didn't say out loud, was we asked what's actually working. So in case you're listening and you're like, well, these people are doing these things, but like, is any of this actually working? The idea behind this question is that people would only answer the things that are actually working. So
Yes.
hopefully that's what happened. And of course, we already knew word of mouth referrals is always
Yeah.
going to be the top for our industry because it's we need so much trust built that it just makes sense. So this is where I think the conversation can get like we're gonna go off on this one.
Yeah, because we did last time. And it was such a good conversation. I'm really sad that that wasn't recorded,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to hold that over your head anymore.
How to like take this information and use it is would be like if you are one of the ones who your word of mouth and referrals is your top source, like what are some other ways that you can bring more referrals in? Like get
Yeah.
creative. Like one of the things that I do is like I'm in a couple different like networking groups and masterminds, and that's where I've decided to focus my time because you can either focus time or money
Yeah.
on gaining
Totally.
clients. And so the idea is to build solid relationships in those groups. And they're not huge groups. And I'm an introvert. So it's like I build really solid relationships in small groups. And then like those people will refer you. They will sing your
Yeah.
praises if you build the trust and deliver on it. So what do you think can be taken away from this?
Yeah. Well, number one, I recently did a business valuation back in December of last year. And when I went through the process, I learned a lot about the types of businesses that we run and the types, like as the accounting firm side of things. And in that discussion, I actually found out that you're less likely to get a higher price tag on potentially selling your firm if you are more reliant on word of mouth referrals. So I'll start with that. But that doesn't mean that you can't have word of mouth and referrals and pour into that. It just means if you are listening right now and your plan is to one day be acquired or to one day sell and go that route, even if you don't think you will, always build your business like you are going to sell it. And I would recommend like not making that your number one priority. And the reason why that is when you go to sell your business is because it is unreliable. Because if everything's word of mouth referrals, it's usually going based off the founder themselves, and especially at our level of firm. And so I think that it's okay to leverage these types of things, but just don't always rely on it. I did want to touch on the let's see, local networking website SEO. I think where was it? Instagram, because we definitely had a really great conversation around this because a lot of people are like, how do I increase my word of mouth referrals? If this is where a lot of you guys are getting your clients, that just means let's pour some more into it, but don't make that your only place that you're getting new clients. If this were me, these are things like I know me and you know these words. Some people might not know what this means, like a campaign. So if you guys don't know, understand what a campaign is, that just means that you are taking an active amount of time to really push something in particular. So you can do a campaign for 1 week that's going out to all your current clients that's saying like, and the campaign doesn't have to be big like freaking Nike. It's just like 5 emails that you're manually sending because you probably don't have an email system that literally just nudges your clients over a week period to say, we're doing something special. We are paying out referral fees. Usually we pay out 250 per client that you send our way that signs on to work with us, but we're actually doubling our referral fee payout for 1 month, but you have to have them sign on like by X amount of time. That's what we call like a campaign. It doesn't have to be a sale or anything like that, but we don't have to be trying all these new things right now if we could just push this one singular thing. But a lot of people just, the problem is with referrals is a lot of people are just waiting for them to knock on their door. And that is where your problem lies. It's okay if you have a referral business, but you have to have a referral system in place.
Yeah, the machine.
The machine needs to be working. Um, but I do want to touch on the Instagram piece because I feel like me and you got like
Yeah, because that's
really,
part of the
really deep.
machine.
Yes, that's part of the machine because like there's a difference between sales and there's a difference between marketing. And I think everybody thinks they're two and this they're one and the same. Marketing is what you're doing to actively put yourself out there, essentially like walking up to someone. Like if you were standing right in front of me,
Yeah.
like me getting there, however you're pushing it, the put you put stuff you're putting on your website to walk up to AKA that person is marketing. Once you start having the conversation with the person, now you're going into sales. That's like the easiest analogy. Then we start to actually convert them into being like, you want to come to my house? Do you want to make some turkey and
Want
have
to
some
come in my
ice cream?
van? Just
Do
kidding.
you want to come into
Yeah,
my
dude.
van? Do you want to come into my travel trailer and just hop in with me and my dog? That would be cool. That's how I accumulate people, not in that weird way, but like as friends.
Accumulate people.
You know, I accumulate friends like all over.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is the difference between sales and marketing. So when it comes to what we call the top of funnel in your marketing, is all the different avenues at which people are finding you. And so one of those avenues is Instagram. And I know we both get this question a lot. I really want to post on social media. I think I need to be there. Should I? What would you say to someone?
Well, it depends on where your ideal clients are hanging out
Yes.
because it's not like you want to get the most bang for your buck. And like I
Mhm.
said earlier, I'm pouring into relationship marketing. That is part of, but I do have a machine behind it. So it's like, it's not just,
Not it's not one stop. That's all Serena's
yeah,
doing.
I'm
She's
just
doing a multitude
participating
of
in these
things.
calls, like, but because I'm in these networks, I'm privy to some opportunities that are popping up that are visibility opportunities. So it's like of people that are my ideal audience. So I was strategic with the groups that I've
Yeah.
joined.
Mhm.
And I also have to do more work than just showing up to those group calls. Like I'm participating in bundles and summits and things like that that are building my email list, which is part of the
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if your ideal client is a construction business owner or a doctor
Yeah.
or a restaurant owner, they're likely not the ones that are handling their social media, and therefore you
Yeah.
don't need to be on Instagram to find them.
Yeah. They're probably not going to be like actively searching you.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's why when I get this question a lot, people, and I'm like, but what's working? So, first of all, for any of you who are listening, when you have your intake form, wherever that might be, I'm going to highly recommend that you add a line item, a question. We have like a two-part for this. It says, how do you find us? Where they can actually check off like boxes. So it might say, like, from a mastermind we're in together, or like it'll say, from, Instagram, or it's from your website, or wherever that might be. And then it has like, a box for them to actually type it out. Sometimes,
Mhm.
like, I'll have people tell me, like, Instagram, because that's actually where we get our number one conversions. They'll say Instagram. I'll get on a call with them, and sometimes I'll be like, what post? Like, just get all like intense. They're like, I don't know. But a lot of the times they actually remember. This is really interesting. And we have this one that we did that was what financial team you need to have to back your firm. And so it said like if you are here, you might need a CFO this and this. And like it was very informational. We actually had like several clients actually land and get brought on because of that one thing. And I remember last time we talked, you were like, are you running ads to it? And I was like, no. I should. Like, but that's the thing. Like, if I didn't know that data, I wouldn't know that I actually therefore need to run ads. If I just ran ads to that one post, we'd probably gain more clients
Yeah.
because I got so granular in asking them, like, what post actually converted you. Sometimes I might not remember. So, highly recommend you put that in your intake form.
Yeah, that I agree. And not just like your intake form when you bring them on as a client, but when you get
What I
them.
meant is like sales intake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
call.
So,
Mhm.
like your inquiry form, whatever that first step is, if they're booking a call with you, if you don't have a questionnaire before people book a call with you, please just do
Just
that.
do it. Just do it. Just do that. So
Yeah.
Instagram, because we had a really good discussion around this
Yeah.
because I do get a lot of conversion. So I will be very transparent. I'm pretty positive it's 1,400 or 1,700. I always forget how much it is, but I do have a social media management team. They take over stories, like they do my stories other than like if I pop on and like share some stuff in my life. They handle all the posting. I don't have to do anything. I don't ever have to check anything. They're pretty accurate. They get some things like off here and there, but then that's just an opportunity for us to work together. They take over DMs as well, so they help with that, but they're not like cold DMing people. They're just like interacting with people. And then they're looping me in whenever something needs to be extra. So I do pay a good fee for that. However, we land a lot of clients from that. So therefore, it was worth it. But then I wanted to talk about your way of doing things and let's go
Yeah.
into how you do things and why you don't push Instagram.
I want you to approach it the same way you did
I
on
don't remember.
take two, but you had a hot take. You were like, I see everyone with the social
Oh,
accountant.
yes. I was heated, guys. Okay, here's my take. Let me just be on my soapbox for a quick little minute. Um, All of y'all are doing the same crap and posting the same things. Love
And
you
then
all.
I was like, "Hi, I'm one
That's
of them."
me. Hi, I'm Serena. It was
But
actually a
there's a
really good discussion.
yeah,
Yeah, it
there
was
a
great.
really good discussion came out of it, which is going to come out right now too.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got a little bit like, I don't like when people are using these templated things from online. I know there's a really big company out there that does it for a lot of bookkeepers and accountants. And while I think they're great and I think they're awesome, if I'm scrolling through any bookkeepers and accountants, like I'm seeing everybody posting the same thing because they're on the same schedule with the same templates and the same thing over and over again. What happens is if you guys don't know this, it actually is Instagram is SEO searchable. When everybody's posting the same thing with the same copy, you guys are all competing against each other and no one's standing out. It's not going to put you in front of other people. And so therefore what happens is someone like me who is not using templates, who is paying someone to do this, it is unique to me. It's consistent. It's up to the standards that I want. It's in my voice. But I understand why people choose to do this. Um, but I'd love to hear your perspective of like why you chose to do it because I would seriously tell every one of my students like do not use this company because
Yeah.
you need to just hire it out. But I also know that not everyone can afford it. But let's
Yeah,
get
and
into
then it
it.
also goes back to that what is your goal with the social
What's
media?
the point of it?
And like are first of all, if your clients aren't on Instagram, this service is not going to be transferable to LinkedIn. I already tried it. I've already gone down that path. Don't even waste your time to duplicate everything over
Yeah,
to LinkedIn because it's a totally different platform. The algorithm's different. It doesn't do well with like the picture and the caption situation like
yeah,
Instagram. So if your clients aren't ever on Instagram, don't even it doesn't matter. Don't do it. Just you don't need the
yeah,
templates even though it's only like $35 a month or whatever it is. Like but if you do have clients that are on Instagram and you're not trying to be exposed and it's not a visibility move and you're not trying to like go viral or get new followers from these posts, then like this is how I'm using it. Like I said, my Instagram is part of the machine, the marketing machine, but
yeah.
that's not how I'm attracting clients.
Like that's not how you're trying to
When
convert
clients
them.
come to, yeah, so my main goal with this was actually my main goal when I started this template service out was just to experiment. And that's how I approach a lot of things. I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. I don't have any attachment to gaining new clients or whatever. And also like I a lot of people approach me wanting, to like collaborate and do stuff, and I hold myself to such high integrity that I won't do a collaboration or promote someone else's stuff unless I've experienced it myself. And so I was
Yeah.
like, well, let me experience this and see how it works for me, and then I'll come back and then we can maybe do a collaboration.
Oh, with the person we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was part of the driver, but also the other piece of it was that no one on my team really had the bandwidth to be creating social media for my firm, nor did I really want to spend the money budget on it. So I
Yeah.
was like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, totally.
But what ended up happening is because I'm doing the work on my referral relationships and my SEO, so I do blog every month and I do send out email newsletters and I am working on that site and my website has SEO, like an SEO play. Like all these things play together
Yeah.
as the machine. And what happens is because I've had people tell me this that come to me when they find me on Google or they are referred to me, they go and look up my Instagram
Yeah.
and there's a presence there and they're impressed with it because they're not seeing all the other same book they're
Yeah.
not seeing the other bookkeepers with all the same posts. Also, I customize them with my branding colors. I put my own pictures in them. So
Yeah.
to someone who's just glancing through, they're not going to know it's a
Yeah.
template, but I'm this isn't how I'm attracting clients. So it's like
Yeah.
the way I'm using it is definitely different. If I was trying to get leads, like actual people on calls and bring more people into my audience through Instagram, I wouldn't use this as the
Yeah, and
source.
that's where our discussion was like really, really good was the fact that this goes for not just Instagram. This could be LinkedIn, this could be Facebook groups, this could be any of those ones that we had mentioned. All it is like taking a step back and saying, because when people tell me I want a presence on Instagram or I want to be on Instagram, I want to find clients, I'm like, what is your goal? Like, what do you actually want to accomplish with Instagram? If they tell me why I want to land clients, then I'm like, then I'm not going to tell you to go buy a template service. It's not going to do the job for you.
Right.
You need someone to actually manage it, customize it, listen to what your audience is saying, listen to what they're asking, like making it like to them where it's almost like reading their mind and
Mhm.
converting them. And so my goals were way different because I know that we convert really well on Instagram. So like therefore it is worth me paying 14 of 1700 for each account because I pay for them for to two separate accounts. And they manage the whole thing. And it's like, but they do convert. They start having the first initial sales conversation. They drop the link to get on the call. And all I'm doing is getting on the sales call at that point. And so it's all about no matter what platform you want to use, what do you actually want to have as a goal? Like Serena said, hers is genuinely like it's just a little landmine plotted into
Yeah.
her whole marketing system that captures them, but is not the thing that's going to like fully get them to work with her. That's not
Yeah.
her intention. So, AKA, templates are great if you just want a presence, but I don't think they're going to serve you when it comes to
Yeah.
actually leading. And to me, it's going to be worth 1400 if I can land two clients that pay me double that,
Yeah.
you know.
That's also the templates are also not the only way to have a social media presence. That like
Yeah.
you don't have to constantly post on Instagram to have the presence. You can pin
Mhm.
certain posts. You can do a 9 grid where it's just like certain things
Here's
about
about
your
us.
business
Yep.
and like there's your presence. You don't have to constantly post on it. So some food for thought on that too. And I don't think this month I didn't use the templates this last month because I was too busy to even customize them because I don't
Yeah.
just post them
And
up
that's why I
there.
don't do that because I know that
Yeah.
I don't want my team to do it. Their time is well better spent. That's why it's like so I get it. Like I get why people choose it because it's way cheaper. But you guys can't expect to be buying these templates, hiring a VA to go in and customize it and then expect like incredible results. Like
Right.
you get what you pay for, in my opinion. And so like when you pay someone who knows what they're doing, it's just like us. Like you get what you pay for with the type of bookkeeping firm you work with. Like it's the same.
Yeah.
So it's to each their own, but I understand that not everyone's in the budget for something bigger. But I mean, I have good results, so like it's worth the spend. You know what I mean?
hmm The other thing too is like you can do a few posts, you can create a few reels, and if
Hmm.
you nail your messaging, you can then, like we talked about, run ads to those high performing posts, and
Yeah.
then it looks like you're everywhere, but you're not.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who's in a mastermind. That's how we met. Her name is Caitlin Carlson, and she owns Theory Planners, and she's awesome. Caitlin literally like runs a multi-million dollar financial, like more financial advisory type of stuff. So like retirement, stuff like that, building your long-term plan. And she does not, all she has is an Instagram. She doesn't even have posts up. She's just like, you go to her website, it's literally like one pager, not even that long. It's like one little paragraph. It's like, here's theory. But like, she's so highly sought out. And the reason why is because like her intention was not to be in all these places and was genuinely to be 100% referral. But then what she did was, then she said, now how can I get that without having all this presence? So that's what this whole conversation is about is how did she take a step back? So she said, I'm going to go work with business advisory firms. That's how I knew her, is because we're referral partners together. Business advisory firms. I'm going to work with these other types of businesses to be so solid in our referrals to them and to us that she doesn't even ever need a presence. And she's heavily sought out. And so, like, that's just something that, like, goes to show that you could build it however you want, but you just have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal and you're just expecting everything without trying to, like, make it happen, like, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because I get a lot of students that ask when they are like enrolling in my programs, like building out their business, they still work for another firm, they still
Yeah.
work in corporate, and they're afraid to post anything on social media because they don't want to get fired for
Yeah.
violating anything. And so, just so you know, like you don't have to have a social
No,
media presence to
you
be able
don't.
to, it's just going to take a little relationship building and
Yeah.
delivering solid service so people are willing to refer you. So it'll take time, yeah, but everything takes time.
Even
Even
social media takes
yeah,
time. Like even like word of mouth or direct some people were saying email and ads and
even
you
cold
know,
messaging
outreach,
or whatever, cold outreach. Yeah, like
everything.
that also everything takes time. So it's a matter of like where you want to pour your energy, what lights you up. If you are really afraid to use social media, like use it in groups instead of like creating a social media presence.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could go back to that. For ambitious bookkeeper, that's kind of impossible to not have a social
Presence,
media
same.
presence. But when
That's
it's
like
a
workflow
one-on-one
queen.
service, it really isn't as necessary.
Yeah, like workflow queen, like
Just
we
do good work.
constant. Yeah, constant. Love that.
Okay. Now we're getting into the final few questions, and then we'll wrap this baby up with a nice little bow.
Love
Um,
it.
what's your biggest challenge in your business right now? So this is a question that offered a free form response. So there's a lot of responses that were similar. And so when we compile all the results, I'll kind of consolidate that information. But what was kind of the most common response?
Yeah, most common response was literally getting clients.
Yeah,
Like marketing, getting clients. There was some like a couple of little things here and there about like setting up my monthly packages, but they were very slim. It's like
getting
one.
started.
Yeah, like little thing, getting started in the business, growth, like in
Marketing,
general.
yeah,
Yeah,
marketing leads, getting new clients, growth, all of these are
marketing,
essentially the
same thing.
same thing.
Yep.
Attracting new clients, just said different ways.
Yeah,
Time management was one, tech stack, SOP and workflows need to be updated since they have a team now. So like some things were very specific, but yeah, the overarching theme was getting more
getting
clients.
clients. Yeah.
So so then the next question, this made us chuckle so hard.
Yes.
What is your biggest goal for the next 12 months? And what was the most common response on this?
That was growing my business.
Yeah.
So we just have to get more clients to grow the business.
Yeah. Double my revenue, double my growth, get more
Yep.
clients, better tech stack. But yeah, it would be interesting, like as we drill down into the data, since these were freeform answers, this one's going to take a little bit more to analyze.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see if like there is true alignment with like the people that were like, what's your biggest challenge and what's your biggest goal? So if your challenge was getting clients and your goal, it like some people basically put the goal as like the same thing as the challenge, but it shouldn't be.
No,
Like
it's usually not.
if your biggest challenge is getting clients, then your biggest goal for the next 12 months is to put the systems in place to get more clients.
Yeah,
So
because you
instead
can't
of grow my
increase it. Yeah.
business, like that's so general. So, anyways, maybe we should do a goal setting workshop on like
Yeah, we probably
defining
we
what a
did one
goal
for
actually is.
remember when we did that for breakthrough and everybody loved it? We did it for
Yeah.
like two parts. I do want to get into the question that comes after because that is really where we're going to be like, you guys are so contradicting in everything you say. So
Okay.
go ahead and read it for me.
What kind of content or support do you need right now?
So you guys would think that 100% of you guys would say marketing, but here's what you actually said, which was very interesting. So it's like very odd to me that you guys are saying that your number one problem is marketing, but yet like you want support in other areas. So like that doesn't make sense. But anyways, we're going to get into it. Number one at 24% was systems and workflows. Number two is all three at 16% actually is pricing and packaging services, advisory and add-on services, mindset and confidence. Mind you guys, have you heard anything about marketing yet? No. Next is 10% of other, 10% of hiring and building a team. And then the next was 5% at client communication.
I think maybe part of it is that I didn't give
You didn't put
marketing
marketing. I
as an
forgot that you
option.
didn't put marketing here. So they probably
As
would
an
have checked it
option.
off.
But
Yeah.
you could have said other,
Yeah, you
but
could have. That's
still,
probably maybe
other
the
was only 5%.
10%.
Yeah.
That was only
Oh,
10%.
10%.
So
Sorry.
the reason I kind of wanted to bring this part up is because everyone's saying that their biggest challenge because me and Serena, with how many times we've get on calls on people, do Q&As, do boot camps, challenges, everything in between. During those conversations, a lot of the times everyone is coming to us to say, I just need more clients. It will change everything. And I always say, if you have more clients, you will have more problems. And that's because I start asking, and we both of us will start digging in and saying, how are your systems? How's your team? And everyone's like, I don't have systems, or I don't have team, or I don't have this. I'm like, great. So you're telling me if you want to turn on the marketing machine right now, and when you do, you think that's going to solve all your problems. That is
Just
not
going to
going to solve your
magnify them.
problem. It's only going to, yeah, it's only going to make it more prominent. And now you're going to have a bad reputation and bad set of clients, all be out of desperation to just get new clients for no reason. But when we're looking at this data and we're looking at what is the biggest challenge, and you guys want more content around, for example, systems and workflows is number one at 25%. When we're looking at that, how does that make sense when you guys only want the marketing side? But we need the systems and before we start cranking in the marketing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Just letting that sink in for everybody. Yeah. So if you filled out this survey and you're like, oh, yeah, I was one of those people that definitely did not align those answers, it's okay. Like,
Totally.
we're not judging because, like, sometimes, especially when it's like, oh, I just want to get this survey done and like
Yeah, you just
participate.
start
But like,
checking off.
this is why we wanted to have this conversation is to kind of help like people unpack like what does all this actually mean? Like if this is a big challenge in my business right now, but I'm not asking for the support or content
Yeah.
around that challenge, then is it because like for me, I can speak from myself only on this, but I can say like one of my biggest challenges is getting clients right now, but that's my own fault because I'm not promoting.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Here's the difference between you and the majority of people, though, is you know that.
Yeah.
Most people will get on a call and be like, it's just not working. I need a new solution. I'm like, you probably just weren't working that particular problem or that particular opportunity
Or
enough.
long enough to
Yeah,
see results.
exactly. Everyone's expecting now that like what the consumption rate of everything, even like the way that people watch videos and how fast we want things is from I want it right now to like needing it the next day. That's not how business works.
Yeah.
That is not how opportunities fall in your lap and how they actually come to fruition. It really takes time to implement these little things. And so, yes, if you've downloaded a project management system and you're like, oh my God, I downloaded Asana and I started using it and it sucked. Or I started, and then next thing you know, they're using Keeper and they're like, oh my God, the same thing, it just sucks. And then now they're switching to ClickUp. And oh my God, it's the same. It's not the software, it's you.
Yeah. And meanwhile, if your biggest problem is getting new clients, why are you wasting time switching between software?
That's what that's what I'm saying. It's how much like everything's so conflicting because it's like if all you need to be doing is marketing, then why are we struggling with then if you're telling me your number one problem is marketing, then that should be your only problem and that is not pricing. Then you should have your pricing solid. You should have your team solid. You should have your system solid. But that's not really the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this is not judging. I'm just very passionate about
Yeah.
the way people ask for things because we will give you guys the content. Well, one, it exists. You have things for advisory services. You have things for how to start your bookkeeping business. I have things for systems. I have things for team building and offers
Planning, communication.
and everything, like everything that you guys are asking for. But I will tell you, and this is not in any way telling you guys to come give us money because this is going to sound like it, but this is genuinely putting in my friend hat of like what I would tell anybody to have a successful business. There's a time and place when free information works for you. Then there's a pivotal point in business where you no longer can afford to use free stuff to get you to the next level.
Yeah.
You have
You're
to make the
gonna
right
waste your
investments.
time.
Yeah, it could be a coach, it could be a mastermind, it could be a very particular advisor, it could be a program. It doesn't matter what it is, but there comes a time and place where you have to decide, am I willing to stay stuck in this current moment of where I'm currently at, or am I willing to put myself out there? I understand the industry is very introverted, but I'm telling you, my favorite messages are the ones that people Instagram me. They're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I have some solutions for you. Here it is. Like, I'm happy to give it to you. You can pay whatever you need to get it done. But I'm not going to give you a whole entire setup for like for free. And if you do, it's not going to be as good,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Okay, last two pieces of information. These were optional on demographics. This is just interesting information to have. Of the survey responses that decided to share this information, 90% were women, which was no surprise to me with our audiences.
The last one was what age range are you guys? Which is actually really interesting. I love seeing like people's age range. And I think this was also optional as well, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So age range were our top one, what 35% is 35 to 44. Then we have 32% of you was 45 to 54. Then we've got about 13% of you at 25 to 34, and then 18% of you at 55 plus. So this is really, really interesting. That means that a majority of people are at least 35 plus. So I'd probably say around 85% of our audience, which is probably better data for us than anybody here on like knowing and understanding who's actually listening. But this is actually really interesting. So 35 plus. I mean, I'm at 34 and I started at it was in 2018 or no, 2016. I'm not even going to try to math. I'm pretty sure I was like 25 when I started my first firm. How old
yeah.
were you?
It was after I left corporate, so I was like 31.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting to see, like ages and seeing where everyone's at. And then there's a tiny slim under 25, which was 2 records only. So two of you guys had filled that part out.
Under 25. That is so cool though.
I
Like
know it
whoever
is
you are, I'm so proud of you for like doing this
doing it.
at yeah, at a young age. You won't regret it. But also it's not too late for anybody.
Never. What was it? Morgan Freeman started acting at like, I'm not even going to say the age, but I think it's like 50 or something like that. There's like some crazy stories about like some really successful people who started really late. But I think there's just like this idea that like, oh, we got to be young and we have to do this and I want all the energy. But I mean, I didn't even know like Workflow Queen was going to start when I started my business. Like, then I didn't even know Magnetic was going to start. And I'm sure you didn't even know Ambitious was going to start. But it's all about the areas, the opportunities, the gaps, and where we could fill them and where we could support people,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
I loved the results. I think this is really fun.
Yeah, it was. So if you want to get a hold of the actual report, make sure you click the link in the show notes or go to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/results. I think that's what I said.
Yes. Yes, you did.
And you will get those emailed when they become available. By the time you're listening to this episode, they should already be available. So you should get them right away
Yeah.
when you opt in. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this really long. I don't even know how long this ended up being
Me
because I don't
neither.
know when we started,
I think it
but
was only like an hour and a half, which is way
okay.
better than the
Yeah,
first time.
we trimmed it down for sure.
Yeah, we did. We did get distracted because when we're in person, Harley was jumping on us and it was so
Oh yeah.
cute and
I
we got
know.
really distracted. I will also say that 100% download the results because this is only like barely touching the surface. And there were so many ways that me and Serena wanted to take this when we first originally did the first take, where we were like, let's start splitting the data and being like, well, of the people at this age, what were they doing? And what were people at like this like range doing here? And like the people with no team, how are they here?
Yeah.
And you can get really complicated really quickly, but just take action with just what you need. Just from like what we covered, I feel like you could take your business in so many different directions.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have to get complicated, but like you can, but don't allow yourself to get too granular. But definitely download the stats because if you do, you can sit there and like dissect it yourself and look at it and come into our communities if you're one of our students and like let's open up a discussion around. I mean, I'm always open to these types of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shu. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.